Welcome into the Game Plan with head coach Dan Quinn. Here are your hosts, Bryan Colbert Jr. and Logan Paulsen.
Coming up on the Game Plan, we are back from the bye week, which means we sit down with head coach Dan Quinn to talk about our matchup against the New Orleans Saints.
And Coach and I head into the film room to talk about the trenches for December football.
And to end the show, we're talking must-watch matchups to get a win out in New Orleans. All that and more
on the Game Plan.
Welcoming in our head coach, Dan Quinn, after the bye week. Coach, how'd you spend your bye week?
Man, was chilling. And honestly, looked at the team, some things that we may need moving forward. And but most importantly, man, for the guys, it was awesome for them to have that break in time, just to disconnect just for a moment. And you felt that energy when they came back into the building on Monday, like first day back at school, energy, doing what and just that kind of connection and like, let's go to work. It was a cool feeling seeing that kind of connection already taking place.
And I think a lot of fans don't understand, like my dad, for example, is like, oh, they should work the whole bye week. They should can you talk about why you give them the time off and then why Monday is so important to kind of set the week off and get ready for that Wednesday practice?
And I think it's probably worth noting, like, our times together as players and coaches are so intense.
Yeah.
It is just that type of all the time. And you need, after 13 weeks straight of it, you need just a minute to breathe and then refill. And so for a number of the players and coaches, quite honestly, the batteries were in the red.
Yeah.
And they needed to plug in and get back in the green. And the way that you set up to recapture all the stuff you want to is when you begin Monday, you're back and you're not into the game plan yet. It's literally about you reconnecting and get all the things that you want to work on, set it up to throw a great week. And you have a bonus practice, we call it, on Monday. And that's where it begins. And that's where you set the agenda of what you want to get done, a little bit of big picture, and then quickly you bring it right back into the week.
And Coach, you talk about the bye week being a chance to recharge. When other guys have recharged and we're here on game day, what do you expect to see from them taking on the New Orleans Saints after this extra rest?
Yeah. What I'm hoping that you and the fans and our families see is relentless speed and finishing with and without the ball. And that means the plays down the field, the backside receiver trying to go get it. The pass protection all the way through. Running to your gap and through it, through the tackle. That type of speed and relentless energy, that's what I expect us to see. And everybody to feel that.
And Coach, before we get into today's game against the Saints, we got to give Bobby Wagner his flowers. He was nominated to be the Walter Payton Man of the Year for this team. New guy, first time with this team. What does it mean to you when you see a guy like that garner all that respect and admiration from a team he just got on?
It's, I think it's the colliding of when a man has his off the field world in order and they're on the field world in order and they mesh. And that's what you see. And it's no surprise that the on the field is strong because of the detail he puts into it. It's also no surprise that the off the field is strong because of the care of who he is and what he looks after. So he's not somebody with a lot of words, but he is about that action. And I love that about him because when he says he's going to deliver, he delivers.
And Bobby's about that action, and so is the rest of this linebacker core. So let's look at the Saints right now. What do you expect to see from our linebackers going up against an offense like the New Orleans Saints?
Well, and Logan can tell you that this is a really accomplished running team. And for fans who've been in the past, can think about from Mike Shanahan's tenure here. Wide zone, really sprinting off the ball with guys like Alf and Clint that could really stretch it and put their foot in the ground and get vertical. And that's honestly, what they do. And so when you see that type of burst and speed from the line, that's where the linebackers, the safeties, the defensive ends, they've got to make sure they're setting the edge and allow these linebackers to get downhill.
Yeah, and you talked about the outside zone game and, a guy that is really good at it. And, kind of in this top 5 running back, top 10 running back kind of environment is Alvin Kamara. And not only can he do it, touching the football as a runner, but he gets a lot of targets as a pass catcher. Yep. And it puts you in a lot of conflict. Can you talk about him and how you kind of manage a talent like that?
Yeah, he's so unique.
Yeah.
He's got rare balance. And that, as a running back, is so critical, not just the decisiveness to put your foot in the ground and get vertical, but the gap can be this small and he can just have this tremendous balance to stay alive and to go. But he's just as explosive as a pass catcher, and not just in a screen game or a check down, but he can run the routes down the field. So certain players garner special attention and recognition, and he is one of those players, and it's proven. And man, for the Saints for a long time, they've had really outstanding running back play. Not just 3, I'm talking like looking back 20 years, you know, from Reggie and Sproles and Ingram and now Kamara and others that have, you know, played well there through the years. But his ability in the passing game is significant, Logan. And it's a matchup. It's, you know, how do you defend him? And so he is an excellent player.
And Coach, you mentioned the passing game, so let's look at that. We'll be facing a backup quarterback. Derek Carr just got hurt. He won't be playing. How does that affect the game plan when you know you're going against a backup quarterback that hasn't played much?
You really emphasize the system. And most of the time, the system stays consistent. And you know, may feature a few more plays one side or another, but the hardest time is when they play differently. And that, you know, you think back to when, like, for instance, Cam Newton at the Panthers and his backup, I believe, was like Derek Anderson.
Yeah.
And one was playing drop back, and Cam could do a lot of things exceptional, but there were different. In this instance, these quarterbacks all have the ability to get out on the edge on keepers. They're all good play pass, you know, guys that can, you know, run action and throw the ball down the field. And so system-wise, we're expecting that to feel the same.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when you talk about the system, I think if you were going to characterize it for fans, you talked about the outside zone stuff, but in terms of maybe some of the play action or keeper stuff, drop back, is there something there that kind of you say this is like the defining feature? Like in the run game, it's outside zone. In the pass game, it's X.
Yeah, and it's the downfield throws, Logan. And to block up 6 or 7 in a protection, to throw the ball down the field, you know, on big shots, that's to me what makes, you know, a really good run action play pass marry together. And so they're capable of the big ones down the field.
Yeah.
And Coach, we can't talk enough about this offensive line and the cohesion we've seen here, that brotherhood we've seen for this offensive line. What have you seen from their development as we go into today's game?
Seeing them work all together at practice, that's what, you know, you carries over into the game. And so having this whole week of these guys all getting all the reps together, their communication, if you were standing by the line of scrimmage, you're hearing constant talk. And the best of the best can do that, to know quickly looks change and things happen. It might even be just by an alignment of a player. Hey, this is going to happen. And so the guys that can process really, really quickly and still be violent and fast off the ball, those are the best offensive linemen, because you have to be able to think quick on your feet. You have to be able to react, and then you do have to be able to finish. And so there's a number of these guys that are getting a lot of reps at these same plays over and over again. And that's why now we should really start to take off and be at our best moving forward because of the extra reps that we've had.
And a guy that to me like embodies that is Tyler Biadasz. And I, you know, you knew him in Dallas and like you understood what he was. And, you know, I'm always kind of a center hater. You can put anybody at center, but you really see the value that he's brought to this group from a leadership, from a compete, from a toughness standpoint. Can you just talk about what he's meant to this group and how he's potentially kind of elevated this group, in my opinion? You know,
it's interesting, Logan, when you're not in a leadership position, you know, even though you've played, and he was behind some fantastic, behind offensive line, but like Zach Martin's a fantastic offensive lineman who was their guard.
Can't hear his voice as well.
You know, Tyron Smith. And so you don't step out as much. But coming into a new spot, you know, this is what we are requiring of you. And so it was a little uncomfortable for him to step into something as a leading voice. Same with Nick Allegretti, to say, okay, I'm ready to have that voice and to take command. And early on, it's uncomfortable to lead. But the more you do it, people are listening and they're following. And that, to me, is where I've seen the growth from him as well.
And Coach, talk about people listening, man. We listen to all the oppressors. They listen to them like they're the Bible. And one thing you said was that you want to improve on the turnover margin for this team. How do you accomplish that today?
It's a team stat. So what I do appreciate right now for offense, we're conscious of the ball. You know, we're making good decisions with the football. And we're not putting it in harm's way. Jaden especially, you know, is somebody that's mindful of it, puts it in the right spot to go. Offensively, the guy's taking care of the ball. Defensively, we've got to find a way to knock it out more. We've had our hands on some, and that's not the same. You have to deliver on the catch. And so it's not a woulda, coulda, shoulda, but how do we practice delivering that? And so there's ball drills, pre-practice, post-practice, not in the same way of you and I throwing catch, but my eyes are turned. I have to glance at the last second to try to catch just the flash of the ball. I have to catch it over my head in different ways, down low by the ground, because you don't catch them here as a defensive back or a linebacker. You catch the ball way over here. You catch it down by the floor. You catch it diving. And that's how you get better at getting interceptions.
And guys, it's crazy to say, just 4 games left in the season, Coach. What do you want to see from your Commanders during this final stretch?
Well, you clearly were not listening earlier. all I am worried about is this game.
This
man.
game,
sir.
Climbing the mountain, man.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
So,
Ryan, pay attention.
We're going back to base camp for you, Brian. It's, honestly, that's what I want. I want to throw a great week, man.
Yeah.
I want to throw a great game. Absolutely have a blast with these guys. Like, together, they have created a really awesome place to play and coach football. And so I don't want to miss it. I'm not looking down the line. I'm not wishing for something else. I want to throw a great game today and kick some ass and then come back and try to do it again.
Well, Coach, we are in no rush, that is for sure, man. I'm always listening to you, Coach, all the time.
Clearly not, everybody.
Thank you so much for your time. Now, you guys got to get into that film room, so we'll let you get to that.
All right.
It was great hearing from Coach. Now let's hear a little more about today's matchup. It's time for a competitive edge brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the Washington Commanders. Now here's a look at the upcoming competition for the Commanders. Washington's record currently stands at 8-5, which is the best start through 13 games for Washington since 1999. With his win last week, head coach Dan Quinn is now tied for the second most wins by a Washington head coach in his first season in franchise history. The Saints have won 3 of their last 4 games following a 2-7 start of the season. They are 3-1 since making a change at head coach from Dennis Allen to Darren Rizzi. Now stick around, Commanders fans. Logan and Coach Quinn will head into the film room right after this break to talk about Washington's offensive line in the trenches. I promise you won't want to miss it. And later on in the show, Logan and I will talk about the matchups we're looking forward to watching today in New Orleans.
You're watching The Game Plan, presented by the Maryland Lottery. Please play responsibly. And by Marsh McLennan Agency, official employee benefits partner of the Washington Commanders. And by Cognier Technology, secure today, shape tomorrow.
Welcome back into The Game Plan. It's time to go inside the film room, brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. Please play responsibly.
All right, Coach, heading to the New Orleans game, and one thing you've been talking about, one thing that I love talking about is offensive line play and trench play specifically, offense, defensive line. And, people see this play, and this is, a great play by, Jaden and Terry kind of getting this post completed over the top, and it's awesome to see that. But this is the thing that makes SportsCenter, this is what people talk about, but they don't get to see the guys really kind of rock 'em, sock 'em robots on the inside here. And I think this is a great job by Cliff. We got chip protection on both edges. And then you don't see pockets like this too often in the NFL, and it's really a credit to the scheme and to the 5 guys up here.
And sometimes people can misunderstand that pass protection can be physical too.
Yeah.
And if you watch these 2 tight ends, and we call that edging, of making sure this defensive end isn't able to rip up the field, and then you can see Sam getting aggressive and staying on his block. Yeah. That is a pocket, man.
Yeah.
It allows for after the play fake, for Jaden to get his depth, and now he can step up and allow this thing to absolutely fly.
And I see this and I say, oh man, there's lanes for him to see, there's lanes for him to run, and it's all because these guys, like you said, Coach, are being super aggressive. The chip help is making sure that you've ensured kind of the protection, guys are locked on, and guys are just competing. And I think that's what you want to see in these types of situations.
The big guys, this is the stuff they live for. When that play happens, it was because of that connection.
Yes.
The play of Terry and Jaden is possible because of Sam, because of Nick, because of Luke. And that, to me, is where we all recognize they're an extension of and connected to one another.
Yeah, and that's why football is the best game in the world, right? Because it takes all 11, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And then this play, Coach, I love this play, right? It's an old school wham block. You get John Bates, who's maybe the best blocking wide in the NFL, coming back here doing some nasty stuff. You get Allegretti mashing. You get a nice double team here. We're pushing back. And then this guy playing out with the quarterback action. I mean, this is how you draw it up, and just love how physical and energetic this group is playing on this play.
2 things that come to note for me is, how do you game plan against a great player.
Yeah.
And where he can't, you got to wall him off and find ways to say, this guy is one that cannot ruin the game. And so finding a leverage to break into that space is a really big deal. And then what I do love about this with Jaden, it takes all the leverage to really run the ball, whether that's just holding him enough on the fake to hold that for a second where the defender can't add into it. And so when all 11 are either down the field blocking, carrying out fakes, everybody's got their spot, and that is a really hard block.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say this probably doesn't feel too good for John Bates, but that's what this is important, right? Because you're not turning it down for your teammate. You know that this has to go down so that this guy can have a good day, and that's something special.
And you've heard it before. Everybody has hard down sometimes. That's a hard down for John. But if you just see Nick trying to finish.
Yes.
Allegretti trying to finish downfield, OZ trying to finish. It allows Chris
receivers,
to be aggressive.
man. Like love seeing that. It's all 11 guys and guys pushing. This is the type of stuff you need to be winning December football. And it's great that it's coming not from just the bacon up inside, but the tight ends, the receivers are all contributing to that, and that's fun to watch.
There's so many plays, Logan, that have happened where guys get excited and they're playing for something bigger than themselves. You see Chris, make a big play and they're trying to go spring him. You can see that type of excitement that takes place. That's what being on a team is all about.
And that's special, man. And then same thing on the defense side of the football. And now they're trying to get our guy on the interior here with the same type of wham block here. Frankie Luvu does a great job on the perimeter coming off the edge. We just make a big pile here, physical down, and love to see this kind of run fit from the defense.
Yeah, and this is a tough play. Tackle trap, coming inside, nose tackle, Johnny going to the end. What I do love about Frankie, he knows when to go take his shot. And as a blitzer that's coming, I'm going to take my shot.
Yeah.
And that's the spot. You hold your disguise, you can't get there early, and you go and you take your shot. And I love being square. Linebackers and defensive linemen that play blocks and play square, that's where you can play good run defense.
Yeah, and it's great to see that. And it's every down, right? This down's I think a first and 10. This is a third and short,
fourth and one.
Fourth and one, right? And it's a little unusual. We got an unbalanced line here, and we get a great edge set, nice vertical edge set here, and then guys run to the football, and you never know when it's got to go down, right? You never know when your moment's going to be called. You got to run to the ball and make it happen.
You got to run, and if you can have guys that can set edges and get to your leverage, it allows linebackers to flow. And if you watch 54 and 4, staying on their feet, staying aggressive.
It's hard not to watch them, right?
But you're trying to defend a sneak. They're not doing that. You're getting the ball out on the perimeter, and you're just going to fight for it. And if you can finish with their helmet going back to the other goal line, Logan, as a defender, that's where the good stuff goes down. I love seeing that type of finish.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. And it's fun to watch that kind of performance, right? And I can't wait to watch you guys do that with that physicality, that mindset, that brotherhood today against New Orleans.
That's awesome, man.
Now it's time for your Prime Player, brought to you by DC Prime, Loudoun's premier steakhouse. For dinner reservations or private dining, call 703-840-2099. This week's Prime Player is running back Bryan Colbert Jr. He has had a career-high 8 rushing touchdowns this season, one more than his total rushing touchdowns over his first 2 seasons. Robinson has also had 3 100-yard rushing games this season after having just one 100-yard game over his first 2 seasons. Now stay right here, Commanders family, because Logan and I will be right back to talk about our upcoming matchups we look forward to seeing back on that football field. All that and more on the game plan after this break. Welcome back into the game plan. Don't forget to vote for your favorite Commanders players that you want to see at this year's Pro Bowl. You can vote as often as you would like to choose the 88-man roster and send the league's best players at each position to Orlando. Cast your votes at probowl.com/vote or on commanders.com. Voting ends on Monday, December 23rd. Now it's time for your ticket to a win, presented by SeatGeek. The most disruptive idea in ticketing, a ticket that works. Expect the expected, SeatGeek.
Now, Commanders family, our ticket to a win are these must-watch matchups. Logan, you only got 60 seconds. You ready?
Yeah, I got to hurry.
Let's get it.
All right, we got Fowler versus Fulaga. And again, this guy's going to be a good pro for a long time. He's a really good physical inline blocker, but struggles a little bit with the speed rusher. Gives up that outside hand. Fowler, I think, with all the speed he's got, can give this guy a tough matchup. And I'm expecting some sacks for the old head right here.
And Fowler's having a career year. A lot of that has to do with our next one, Joe Witt Jr.
Joe Witt Jr. versus Alvin Kamara. And the reason it's the defensive coordinator versus the running back is because this guy leads the team in targets targets, leads the team in carries. He really is their offense right now, and it's going to take all 11 guys plus the coordinator and the scheme to slow this guy down. It's going to be an awesome matchup because you stop him, you stop their offense.
Saints 10th in rushing in the NFL. And our last one, Logan.
Yeah, we got Brandon Coleman and Granderson, excuse me. This guy is a blue-collar, snap-to-whistle kind of guy. Love the way he plays. It's going to be such a unique challenge because nobody plays the game as hard as Granderson. So I can't wait to watch Coleman go toe-to-toe with this guy.
Great test for Brandon Coleman and a great test for our Commanders as we take on the New Orleans Saints. For head coach Dan Quinn, Logan Paulsen, and Bryan Colbert Jr., this is the Game Plan. Let's get this W today. We'll see y'all next Sunday.